to Asset Preservation Hour. I'm Stewart Willis, joined today by Spike Spengel, my co-host on the radio on KTAR and AM 550 KFYI. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for unlocking me from the radio booth, letting me come out in public and help you with today's program. As we do every single week on Stewart's show, we're going to be focusing on retirement planning strategies for you folks right here in Arizona. Stewart, thanks so much for letting me out. Boy, what a year it's been. We've had so much volatility. We continue to hear about inflation. What's on your mind today? What do you want to cover?
Well, I think what's really important is to really understand that, look, we're in the holiday season right now. I think it's really important to make sure, people know every single year. I like to make sure that we donate money to charities that I think are worthy. And while you're enjoying your time with your family over these amazing holidays, what we want to do is also help you get involved. And as a team together, what we're going to do is we want you to understand that St. Mary's Food Bank is our, it's our charity of choice. And for every dollar you donate to St. Mary's Food Bank, that supplies 7 meals for a family in need. So what we're going to do, like we did the week before, is for every dollar you donate as an audience, and remember, in Arizona, you can get state tax credits, which are dollar for dollar matched. So for every dollar you give, it can save you $1 off of your state income taxes if you're eligible. But what we'll do is for every dollar you donate, we will match that up to $20,000 because, look, we are incredibly blessed. We're in this amazing time. But look, there are families in need, and we just want to get you involved and get you to help. So first and foremost, we want to make sure we help out the people.
Well, and thank you for addressing that. And while we are in the holiday season, in this season of giving, please do give what you can, whether it's to Stewart's organization or where you can here around the community in Arizona. So this will not only be our Christmas edition of the Asset Preservation Hour, and we want to make sure that you can give where you can, but I think you also said in our pregame show that we want to make sure that we're also giving to ourselves. And one of the things you want to do before our year wraps up here is making sure that we are financially fit. So a few of the things that I wanted to go over with you today, going through living trusts, why that's so important. Even though your firm says asset preservation, wealth, and tax, we're going to go to the attorney side, the legal side with living trusts. Then also a little bit on diversification and how we can all get ready for this new year that's right upon us. Wow, I can't believe 2020 has flashed by so quickly. But there have been a lot of bumps in the road. So do you want to start out with living trusts? Yeah,
absolutely. I think, living trusts are one of those things that people have heard about. They don't know really what to think, Spike, but it's, super, super important. They're starting to be marketed pretty heavily in different venues. And I think a lot of people are just really confused as to whether they need one.
I'll tell you, I'm confused because I've seen a lot of online advertisements. I don't know if this is something that somebody is pitching as a product. Is this commission-based? I wanted to make sure that my assets pass to the heirs that I want them to. And just researching on the trusts alone can be confusing, let alone feeling that I'm getting pitched something by a salesperson. So what should folks be looking out for?
Well, I think this is a cautionary tale. I want to make sure that, people realize that estate planning, living trusts, all of those documents, they're really, really important to have. And what we've seen historically is a bunch of companies that have taken advantage of certain marketing tactics to take advantage of the consumer. In California years ago, we had these companies that we referred to as living trust mills that basically provided legal documents very inexpensively, but they basically did it to get access to your financial information. And, one of these companies...
Huge cautionary tale.
And so they referred to that in all of these lawsuits in California as pretext interview. So basically you're saying, hey, I'm just calling to set up a trust. You disclose all your financial information, and then they try to sell you very expensive insurance products. Well, the interesting thing is a lot of those characters that were part of that lawsuit in California have now showed up in Arizona. So if you start to see living trust for sale for a price that makes no sense, well, just understand that's not how they make their money. They make their money by you disclosing assets, and then they sell you, very inexpensive living trusts, oftentimes not even prepared by an attorney, prepared by what they call a legal document preparer, which, we have a bit of an issue with. So the cautionary tale is just be careful, make sure you understand what you're dealing with. A lot of these guys are very savvy from a marketing perspective. When you see them online, they're using, Google keywords to basically, where they'll say fiduciary or registered investment advisor or broker. But right below it, they say, we are not any of these things. Not really why they include it on their website, other than for keyword attraction and, to be ranked high on Google, so to speak. So be careful, make sure you're dealing with a fiduciary, make sure that you're dealing with, an attorney that's preparing all of these documents. It's really, really important to make sure you do that.
I know that you were on with legal counsel right before we started the program, and I'm talking about things that we can say and can't say. So when you're seeing something that sounds too good to be true in an advertisement, as you know, it likely is. You have to be careful. Let's stay focused right here in Arizona. What are some of the rules and regulations here regarding Arizona when it comes to some of these tools?
Well, number one, I think the one question would be, well, why is Arizona even allowing this, right? Like all of these lawsuits that happen in California, and I know, look, Arizona is not California. We're becoming more like them as they all move here, but
it's bigger and bigger and bigger.
I came here from California as well, so forgive me, I apologize. But the question of, hey, why is the legislature, why aren't people getting more involved? Why are they allowing all of these kind of unscrupulous companies to come here? Because honestly, quite frankly, the Arizona has been the Wild West, and a lot of these people that were involved in these lawsuits realized that California's litigation risk was too high, so they moved here, and they're avoiding a lot of that. But
okay,
I think it's really important that these documents get prepared for you, that you have these documents.
Okay, wait, I'm going to stop you there, though. Can we start really with the definition of what is a living trust?
Yeah. Well,
why do we need it? Who needs it? And what exactly is it?
I think it's a great question. So what in a living trust is generally what people refer to when they're referring to a complement or to a complete portfolio. And when you have an estate planning portfolio, that document set usually includes multiple documents. The first document, of course, is your living trust. And what the living trust does is it essentially makes sure it does two really important things. Number one, it helps you avoid estate taxes, and it also helps you avoid probate. Well, for most of the people we're talking to here, probate is your main concern. You want to make sure that your kids, your heirs, your charities, whoever, when you pass assets, that they're not having to go through this lengthy probate process. And probate is one of those things that, these people will scare you into saying, hey, there's these evil people that. Probate isn't an evil process. It's just expensive and it's time consuming. And a lot of attorneys dismiss the impact of probate because guess what? They're getting paid to put you through it, right? So just understand it all depends on what angle you're coming from. I jokingly say I'm a man of leisure, and when I make a commitment to my clients that, hey, I'm going to be there for you, if there's a survivor, I'm going to be there for your surviving spouse, okay. I'm going to be there for your kids. I make that commitment to my clients with one caveat. They need to have their stuff in order, right? They need to have a living trust if it's appropriate for them. They need to make sure they do. So number one, when we talk about a living trust, we're talking about the complete portfolio in general, but the living trust itself is the vehicle that helps you avoid going through the probate process and helps reduce estate taxes if it's relevant.
So one of the number one things in there obviously has to go our will. And be honest with me, how many times when you have people come in for a first appointment, do they not even have a simple will, let alone a trust?
Listen, I've said before, I feel like a hypocrite every once in a while because, look, I just got my trust done last year, and I've been preaching them for 20 years, right? I've been saying, hey, you need to have a trust. You need to have it. It's because what happens is we all get busy. And now that we're in the holiday seasons, you need to make sure you take care of yourself. Like you said earlier, yes, we're worried about giving everybody else. Now, give yourself a gift. this season. Give yourself the gift of having your affairs in order. And you start with a living trust, right? So the living trust, back to your question, is the critical part. The other really important document there is a pour-over will. And what the pour-over will does is it essentially says that if you forgot to list an asset in your trust, because the assets have to be retitled in your trust. But if you forgot to put them in the trust, the pour-over will says we intended for it to be in the trust. So if you have a car, for example, and you didn't want to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles to put your car in the name of the trust and retitle and so forth, it's basically letting everybody know that you intended to put it in there, and that gives it to your trust upon your passing. Then your trust is what distributes it. So the pour-over will is super critical. Here's an example. We had a client, a financial client of ours, that came in. He had tons of UPS stock. He had a trust, and we said, hey, we're really concerned that this account isn't in the name of your trust. And you know, this was back in August, and he came in, he became a financial client, but it wasn't appropriate for us to manage this single UPS stock because there was tons of capital gains. We weren't going to do anything, and he had some leverage against it. And so he knew that he needed to put it in the trust, and he started that process. Well, we heard terrible news a couple weeks ago that he had just passed. And right by his stock, or his stock statements, was the document to fund it into his trust. He just never got it done. And now it's having to go through a probate process that, you know, just was completely avoidable. Now, he intended to start that process. He did, but he didn't. So now he has to go and pay thousands of dollars to an attorney to put him through the probate process. So the pour-over will helps you get through that. What's also included in this document set is a healthcare power of attorney to make sure that you have the people in charge when you're no longer capable of making decisions on your own for healthcare. There's a financial power of attorney so that you may have a different person for healthcare than for finance, right? Like you may have a sister or a brother that you want to handle, you know, talking to the doctors, etc. But when it comes to the finances, you're saying, hey, she's my sister, she's a nurse, and she knows what she's doing when it comes to healthcare, but yeah, she doesn't know how to save money, and I don't want her paying my bills.
It's a lot to take on for one person. Same thing happened with my grandmother. My father was in charge of everything financial. His sister was in charge of everything that was health. And that way they could divide and not both be overwhelmed with having to take care of all of one things for one person.
Yeah, so the healthcare power of attorney, the financial power of attorney is a separation of different responsibilities upon your passing. Also included in this, in a typical portfolio when it comes to estate planning, is also the certificate of trust. It's basically like a Reader's Digest version of your complete trust that you take to the banks, because the most important part of a trust, like I alluded to earlier, is making sure that trust is properly funded. If it doesn't own anything, if you never put your house into the trust, if you never did any of that really crucial work, well, it just does no good at all. It doesn't help. It's just
this is one of the biggest things that I've heard about from folks when we've done educational events or they've called into the radio shows. So this is called titling the assets into the trust, right? So you create the trust, and you're going to need an attorney, someone with legal expertise to be able to help you do that. Then you need to make sure you put your assets into the trust. How exactly does that? Is that a hard process?
Well, it's not hard. It's sometimes just time consuming. And I just pulled out here. This is, a ton of documents here. It's our estate planning portfolio. This is a real trust for a real client that we're going to deliver, on Monday here.
Okay.
But, inside that document set, there's tons of these documents, and they're beautiful documents. Everything is good. But if you don't get the assets into the trust, it doesn't do anything. So for your property, for example, what we do is we create a grant deed or a different version of a deed, depending on what kind of asset it is. But basically, that grant deed lets the county recorder know that you have a living trust. And as an individual, you're giving it to yourself as a trustee. And so it's basically retitling, saying, hey, now the trust owns it. And here's the thing. It's important to have all that stuff done. And if you don't get it done, you're going to put your kids, your heirs, through all kinds of unnecessary trouble. Listen, typically a trust is, a couple $1,000s or so, depending on where you go. It also includes a living will. I didn't even mention the living will. The living will is your end of life decisions. Do you want to be kept alive on life support? And, you know, every once in a while, I had this one client that said, hey, listen, I'm the one that made all this money. I don't care if it goes to the doctors, you know, freeze me, you cut my head off, you know, send me to Mars. I want to make sure I live forever, right? And there's no right or wrong answer. You want to make sure your wishes are observed.
Well, it's not just that. It's also taking the decisions off of either your loved one, your spouse, or your kids. Even if it's written out in the will and say, you know, under no means keep me alive under extreme measures, or to do the opposite, cryo freeze me, send me to Mars, keep me alive because I know there'll be a cure someday.
Right.
But it's taking those decisions out of the kids or your spouse's hands so they don't have to worry about it. Write it out explicitly so you know and they know exactly what you want done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think first and foremost, people just need to get their trust done, but make sure you're doing it with a credible company that has been in business for a long time. Go to a law firm, you know, go somewhere, just get it done.
Right. Before we go out to break here, though, I know that you are not an attorney. So if people call in for the phone number right now, we usually talk about a complimentary review, getting your financial plan set up. What exactly can you do to help people get started with this? Because I want to talk about diversification when we get back from the break. Let's close up with this.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is I hate presenting options to people and saying, hey, get this done, but I don't really offer a path to the solution. So what we're going to do, and this is going to be the first time in the history of my company doing this, is first of all, we only do estate planning generally for our financial clients who get a discounted rate on the estate planning portfolio, because I just don't want to hang out with your kids in probate court, right? But what we're going to do for our audience today is if you sign up for our complimentary portfolio review, where we'll take a look at the risk and all of the different fees inside of your assets, along with that, what we'll do is we'll make you an offer that we will do a complete estate plan for you for $950. Now, understand, that's a $1,000 discount off of our normal price. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is help motivate you to get that done, okay? We are a wealth management firm, first and foremost. The trust is one of those complimentary things. When I say complimentary, not free, complimentary where it complements your entire financial plan. You need to have it as part of the plan. But if you give us a call today at 833-652-7829, I can only do this for the first 10 callers or first 10 people to click on the QR code, okay? Because I don't want 2,000 people calling. But for the first 10 that act with urgency, what we'll do is if you bring in your complimentary portfolio review, you bring in your statements, we do a review for you, we will offer you an estate planning portfolio at $950. That's a $1,000 discount off the regular price, but you have to act today. Give us a call at 833-652-7829, only for the first 10 callers.
Thank you, Stewart. We will take that short break right now. Folks, call right now so you can get started on it. As Stewart says, the first 10 callers or the first 10 people to click on the QR code. The reason we have to charge for it, there are man hours. There's a lot of work and everything that goes into it. So we do need to charge for it. But it is, imagine the thousands of dollars you're saving yourself by not having to go through probate court. Get yourself your own attorney to make sure that your assets go where you want them to. Call 833-652-7829. More with Stewart Willis in the Asset Preservation Hour television show, not radio. I was just about to say radio. Stewart could feel that. When we come back right after this.
People are really concerned about outliving their money. Inflation, taxes, volatility in the markets, legacy. That's what people are really concerned about. Listen, I love what I do. When a client of mine can know with total confidence that they're going to be okay. At Asset Preservation, that's exactly what we do. Not only do we look at your investments, we look at your taxes and estate planning as well. We don't leave any stone unturned. That is what a real holistic shop does. Provide a very clear roadmap so that you know it's okay to enjoy retirement. Success is being able to sleep at night. And at the end of the day, what we provide at Asset Preservation is not only the market expertise by institutional money managers that are some of the biggest and best in the world, but we also provide complete advice. You need to make sure you have a plan. What you can expect from us is to let you know the truth about your portfolio.
Welcome back, Arizona, to the Asset Preservation Hour with Stewart Willis. He is the founder of Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax right here in Arizona. I'm filling in for Cynthia DeFazio. I'm Spike Spengel, and maybe you might recognize my voice. I'm the host of Stewart's weekly radio show. So thank you for letting me out of the booth this week. I appreciate it. I've been having fun.
You do not just have a face for radio. You look great on TV.
I know. My mom says it all the time. She's like, you got to get out of the radio. Let him do some TV. So having a great time here in the Tempe Broadcast Studios. And we wanted to wrap up our holiday show here talking about diversification. Are we going to be leaving that underneath the tree this year? A diversified portfolio for the spouse? I don't know if she's going to want to unwrap it.
Right. Well, I think it's one of those most commonly misunderstood things. You know, people believe if they have 100 different stocks or 100 different mutual funds that they're diversified. And I'll tell you, I had a client a few years back that showed up, had, I don't know, it's like 170 positions. And they, you know, what they did is they just had a big mess there. And, you know, and oftentimes when there's that many pieces, you know, people, you know, a lot of advisors will create this just mess of a portfolio because it's overwhelming. And people say, well, I can never do that myself. Or, you know, this guy must be really smart if he can juggle all these pieces. But, you know, having that many moving parts is a really difficult thing. And I think people oftentimes are very improperly diversified. Having a lot of things doesn't mean they do different things, right? So, you know, I know you've seen some of our portfolio reviews that we've done.
Yes.
And oftentimes what happens is when we look at your portfolio and you have, you know, two different mutual funds, for example, one is a growth fund, the other one's an S&P fund. Well, guess what? If they do 98% the same thing, they're darn near the same thing. If 80% of the underlying holdings are the same thing, then, you know, and they do the same thing, then, you know, they're the same fund in our eyes.
I think what's part of unique to this year, especially for the end of 2022, is that for the last 13, 14 years, for those who were doing well or felt they were doing well, they saw their accounts going up and up and up, and everybody was feeling great. But I think why you wanted to talk about diversification today was because of the crash that's gone on, the slowdown. And people are now realizing how overlapped they were, or they didn't realize, like, why is my account going down 20 or 30%?
Right, yeah, you know, the whole big question for people now is the 60-40 portfolio dead? And what we mean is 60% equity, 40% bonds, or 40% equity, 60% bonds. You know, those are the classic portfolios that were, you know, one was kind of a balanced approach, the other one was a bit more conservative. But, you know, when we saw the bonds crashing as well, we saw basically a fully correlated market this year where not only stocks fell, but bonds fell as well.
You said jargon alert, jargon alert. What do you mean a fully correlated market? Please explain it for folks like me, like radio show hosts, so we can understand it.
That means that they all do the same thing, which means they fell, right? They all do, they react similarly to the same environment, right? That's a full correlation, or a number one correlation. Now, most people, when we talk about diversification, are thinking about the things I just talked about, diversification of investments. The one thing we talk about at Asset Preservation, Wealth and Tax is something a lot different. It's not just a diversification of investments. It's also about making sure you have a diversification of perspectives. And let me explain. When you go to most advisors and you're sitting across the desk from someone, they're saying, hey, I like this mutual fund and that mutual fund and so forth. And if that's happening to you, where you have a financial advisor and that financial advisor is making recommendations of individual holdings for you, my question to you is this: what if they are wrong? You're going to bet your entire life savings on whether or not this one person is right? Here's the truth. You may have more money than your financial advisor does. And do you think that they're going to know specifically where the market's going? Because let me just tell you this. I don't know where it's going, not particularly. Because if I did, I wouldn't be hanging out with my clients. I'd be hanging out on my 500-foot yacht in the south of France somewhere. But we don't know. So what we do is we create a diversification of perspectives. We have a money manager that's one of the largest money managers in the world to oversee some of our portfolios. We have another money manager, this amazing man named David Young. He spent 14 years at this amazing bond house in Newport Beach. I can't say their name because he's no longer with them, but they are, you know, he's a phenomenal money manager. We have another money manager that's an algorithm money manager that is very what we call tactical. So what we want to do is make sure that all your eggs aren't in one basket, because if that one person is wrong, you know, that could bring all down your house of cards. It could be a tremendous amount of risk that's just completely unnecessary. And a lot of these advisors here, even some of the wealth groups that we see locally, they have an in-house money manager. Why? Well, because it's less expensive for them. Not less expensive for the clients, less expensive for the firm. Because look, if I go out and hire a money manager for an in-house money manager, pay them 150 grand a year, $200,000, sounds like a lot of money. But if these guys are managing $500 million, $1 billion, that is nothing in the big scheme of things, right? Yeah. So rather than doing what we do, where we pay, you know, these money managers out of our pocket to get these things done, yes, it's costing me more than doing it in-house. It's costing me more than buying these generic portfolios. But you know what? All of our clients' eggs aren't in one basket.
I got to add this in really quick because we only have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
But you also, I know because we've done over 500 hours of radio together this year alone, you also talk about tax diversification. Can you cover that real quick?
Yeah, tax diversification is just making sure that a lot of you guys have done what you were told to do. You put away all your money inside your 401k, your 403b, your 457, your thrift savings plan, whatever. But then what you do is you find out that when you retire, and you take this money out, it's going to create this massive tax time bomb. So a lot of you that have been, fans of our show for the last couple years know I talk about Roth conversions and Roths and so forth. Tax diversification is just making sure that you have after-tax or tax-free money that isn't tax deferred. You need to make sure that if something happens in your life, you can write a check for any problem that ever comes up. So you don't want everything tax deferred.
Right. So there's a lot with the tax diversification, and of course, as we wrap up today's program, I know that we encourage the folks here in Arizona, as you do every single week, to call into you. As we wrap up the holiday season here, what would you like to give to Arizona?
Yeah, so not only are we giving to the St. Mary's Food Bank, which I really encourage you to do, go to our website at apsitaxes.com, click on that QR code, it'll lead you to the link. But what we're also offering today is that completely complimentary portfolio review, where we'll take a look at what kind of fees you're paying, what kind of taxes are hiding in the background, and are you truly diversified? Give us a call at 833-652-7829. We'd be glad to help.
Thank you so much for watching. Happy holiday season. Cynthia DeFazio will be back again soon. She's just a little under the weather. Thank you for watching.